There was a guy on Eddie Trunk. That's his name. Have we talked about Eddie Trunk before?
Don't think so.
Oh, okay. Boring radio guy.
Didn't he do a discussion about something and we commented on it?
I think possibly. Yeah, I think it was him. He has opinions, but this one is basically he's moaning about how Poodle Rock gets a hard time unnecessarily. That's his moan. So the discussion is about why the 90s are shit. Is essentially the discussion. It's interesting watching how people, probably because they're our age actually, and they grew up with Nirvana and they think it's the moment of creativity. And there's people need to sort of twist the logic around to change. It only went wrong in 1996. That's when everything changed in 1996. But of course it didn't. It was a slow growth of the industry from the mid 70s onwards. Was a bad thing. As they discovered how to fix the system, how to control what people buy, how to keep all the money. And how to keep all the money is not letting bands carry on. They've got to come in, they've got to do their thing, and they've got to go away. And you've got to have Joe Wiley on the telly telling people, this is the new music. It's so amazing. This banal strumming band.
That's not just a music industry thing, though, is it? That's things in general.
It's just business. It's just marketing.
How do you get around that, though, Kev?
You find out how to set it up so that everybody gets the product for free, so that it has no value, and then because they've already told everyone it has no value, nobody buys anything, and they shrink it into that much, that tiny, that's so small and irrelevant.
Yeah, but this is sort of like a common problem, isn't it? So, the iPhone. Is there any justification to have an iPhone over an Android phone? No.
Well, if you need something that's on the iPhone, some software, some functionality,
which
could happen. But other than that, no, because it's £1,000.
And yet, that was. I don't know if. I presume that's the number one selling phone. Certainly in America,
probably.
Maybe in the UK as well.
Yeah. Well, then the new Samsung is £1,099.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But my point is, how do you circumvent the idea where marketing is actually seems to be making irrational decisions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you get around that?
How do you get around the irrational decisions?
Yeah. What can we change? Yeah. So that people's decision-making process isn't subverted by marketing.
Oh, the internet will sort all that. Then everyone will have access to the information. It'll be great.
Yeah, it didn't quite work, did it?
No. It was worse. It's worse than it was before. No, I reject all science. Flat Earth.
Well, let's keep politics out. Let's just talk products, yeah?
Yeah.
So, how do you get people? So basically the idea, it's quite fundamental to market. It's politics. No, it's economics.
It's economics.
It's economics. It's fairly fundamental to markets or market theory that people make rational decisions and that they're well informed about the decisions they've got to make, the products they're choosing to buy.
Yeah, people buy things because they want them.
Yeah,
because they need them. They think, I need it for this thing. That's why they buy them.
But what can we change to make that different? That's what we're spitballing here, Kev. We're going to change the world, yeah?
Change the world.
Presumably it's going to be a better place if everyone made sensible decisions about
it. Yes. Good luck. Well, but that's you tell. What do? You can't tell people they're wrong. You tell people they're wrong. They're digging. This is weird, actually, because I've prepared a video to watch, which I thought was going to go on the other channel, but actually, we can put it here. There's a clip from 1986. This is going to be so boring for some of the viewers of a debate. Well, not a debate, actually. No, I don't know what you call it. Famous computer businessmen have a discussion.
And they joined us to take part in our very own version of Any Questions. Facing the audience were Sir Clive Sinclair, Chairman of Sinclair Research, Roger Foster, Chairman of Apricot Computers, Alan Sugar, Chairman of Amstrad, and from America, the inventor of the Commodore PET and now the president of Tandon Computer, Chuck Peddle. One of the most interesting exchanges came out of a question about the Motorola 68000 processor chip.
The rush towards the 68000 may have been driven more by technical enthusiasm than by genuine need. Very often, the machines that were produced did no more than people could perfectly well do on 8-bit machines. I do think that perhaps we've been inclined to rush for the exciting technical fix a little bit too fast. I mean, I obviously include ourselves very much in that camp.
Since the QL uses a Motorola 68000, aren't you saying that the QL is a bit of a mistake?
I don't think it's a mistake in the sense that obviously we've sold very many thousands of them, but we haven't sold them to the market we hoped to. We hoped that they would sell in the same sort of universal way that the Spectrum had and other machines have done. And it simply hasn't. It has sold very well by comparison with the business machines, obviously, because it's sort of a halfway house, so the numbers are quite high. But we were certainly disappointed by the numbers, we must admit that, and we certainly didn't get the market that we expected to.
Alan?
Well, I'm afraid we're in marshy territory here as far as I'm concerned, because I don't know what a Motorola 68000 is, quite frankly. My guidelines and brief given to the engineers that design the products that we produce is that we have to, as Sir Clive said, produce a machine that offers the consumer what he actually wants it to do. And our company, I've stood here at exhibitions such as this one and noted and spoken to consumers who don't even ask what processor is inside the product that we're producing. So I tend to agree there is a tendency of a rush towards new technology, and I think what is needed by manufacturers like ourselves is somewhat of a tempering down of the enthusiasm of the design engineer to not rush off at a tangent to stick this new thing in a machine. Let's make sure that this new thing is actually going to do something that the consumer can actually see and benefit from.
Thank you. Next question, please.
May I ask, given the amount of creativity and talent there is in British companies, do you think that by the end of the decade, a single British company will be able to break through in America?
Roger, I think I'd like to come with you for that first.
Well, we've, as you know, had a pretty serious go at breaking into the American market in the course of 1985. And you can argue that we've either been successful or unsuccessful. In practice, what we've done is we've sold about 5,000 computers, business computers, worth about $8 million. Well, that, for the first year, I think is some considerable success, even though I must admit it is below the original target that we set ourselves. I think, being practical, we're going to have to settle for niche markets in America. It is so big, so dominated by IBM and other major players. But I think for British companies to succeed there, they must go for a niche in the market rather than for the scattergun approach of the volume market.
Sir Clive?
Well, that's one approach, the niche market, but the other approach is to come up with a product which is uniquely better than anything that's available from any other source. And we did that with the ZX81, and we sold over 1 million of those in the States, and of course that's history now, and we're certainly not doing much in the States now. Alan is going into the States with a unique product. He's got world leadership in his product there, and I believe he'll succeed very well. And we certainly hope in future to come up with products which have sufficient world leadership to do the same sort of thing. And I don't see any reason why a British company can't go back into the States as long as they've got real technical leadership.
Is there any other reason why British companies find it so difficult getting on their feet in the US?
Well, no, I think they identified the problem. Frankly, we're a U.S. company that hasn't taken a go at the U.S. market, except in a way that I think more people ought to try. There are a series of partners in the United States market that have distribution, that have the need for new and innovative products, and certainly people on this panel are capable of doing those. A partnership arrangement, a way of making that product sold to them, either as an OEM product or in some kind of joint venture, I think is probably the easiest way to get around the fact that some of those companies have 20 years worth of investment in distribution and a lot of relationships. You have to find a way to get in cooperation with them. But I think if you have an innovative product and you've got the right price point, you can find partners, and that's clearly the way Tannen's chosen to go into the market this time.
Yeah, there you go. So, of course, first thing is, most people were saying would be like, apricot and Tandon. Who? they're long gone, you know. But right there, my point originally was that you've got those two people, Alan Sugar and Clive Sinclair. Of course, 3 months later, Clive Sinclair sold his business to Alan Sugar. You've got the problem right there in that in the US, in Japan, that those two people are one and the same person. You know, you've got your people like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is a technical person who saw technology and all that stuff. He wasn't just a businessman. You know, we didn't. You know, and it seems strange people don't even talk about. Oh yeah, we're selling British computers in the US. I stand a chance, but we did then. For one moment, we nearly did, but that's why we couldn't. You know, you had a techie person who thinks, let's sell some cool technology. This is my invention. I'm bored of that now. New invention. You know, and you've got Alan Sugar, who's absolutely right there. Nobody cares what a 68,000 is. Why would they care what a 68,000 is? And so for 5 years he was right, and he completely dominated the computer market in the UK when all the other companies fell by the wayside. You know, it was just US companies and Japanese companies. The problem was, of course, long term, it just ran out. The technology just ran out. He had no interest in the technology, so they didn't make any new stuff, and it just finished, and that was it. You know, that was the thing. So you need someone who's got both of those skills. What was our original? What were we talking about?
Basically, what changes you put in place to make the markets more rational, or make people's purchasing decisions more rational?
And the answer is education. I mean, but that's the thing. Alan Sugar's absolutely right when he says, "Well, nobody cares about that. They just want to know what it does. It'll do this thing for me. I don't need a 68,000 because the old computer does databases and spreadsheets as well. So this costs more. So why would I do that? You know."
I thought Alan Sugar's I thought Amstrad got it wrong.
In the end, yeah. Short term, I think it's even said in that program actually. Short term, yeah, you know, he's undercutting everyone. He's taking old technology and reselling it. Basically, that's what he used to do. And he was hugely successful at it. But then there was no new technology to sell. Eventually, it just became old, and you know.
I thought he sort of had a go at sort of taking on IBM and stuff like that, and
yeah, cheap PCs. Yeah, very successful. Yeah.
Well, he come up with a cheap PC, and didn't it sort of, wasn't there a technical problem or something like that with it?
There was a lot of technical problems, yeah.
Something to do with the hard drive. Because he blames that technical problem for basically ending Amstrad.
I don't remember. You have to remember, everything was made so cheaply to be as cheap as possible. So he always had problems, but maybe there was a faulty batch of hard drives or something like that. That's all it takes.
It was slightly incompatible or something like that. And
that rings a bell. They sold a lot of 512K PCs, and the IBM PC had 640K free.
Yeah.
So consequently, most of the software isn't going to fit in 512K. I also think there's a tendency in this country to slag off homegrown stuff. I mean, it was in that there was a bit of a snipe at Clive Sinclair in that video, which wasn't completely uncalled for, but that's how people were with Clive Sinclair. Oh, it's rubbish. Oh, why are you doing that? And it's the same with Amstrad as well, in that a lot of the criticisms, some of them were real, some of them weren't. People would say they were terrible before they'd even come out, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing peculiar to this country, I think, or the UK.
The PC 1512s. Problems soon after it was launched, PC 1512 ran into a barrage of unexpected criticism. Rumours started that it was unreliable because it didn't have a fan and so overheated. ICR were quoted as having rejected the machine because of this problem.
Yeah, and it was an 8086, so it wasn't going to overheat.
It was assumed that the machine lacked a fan because it was an Amstrad attempt to cut costs, when in fact it didn't have a fan because the power supply being in the monitor made one unnecessary. Still, the stories grew in number and reputation on the PC 15 time. Fine. Alan Sugar decided to do something about it. After repeatedly telling journalists that the fan wasn't necessary, he gave up. I'm a realistic person and we are a marketing organ, so if it's the difference between people buying the machine or not, I'll stick a bloody fan in it. And if they want bright pink spots on it, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
These are me banging my head against a brick wall and saying you don't need the damn fan, sunshine.
Yeah, well, he earlier on he used to repack it because Clive Sinclair did these hi-fi kits, these little cheap kits. You could build yourself a hi-fi, and he would buy them, stick them in a wooden box, and sell them as a proper hi-fi.
Yeah.
And they used to have flashing lights on the front. And he had, what was it he called it? Sort of the moron effect or something like that. Quite offensive to his customers, really. And that make it have flashing lights to look like it's a real thing. You know, that was his approach.
Here we go.
Because like we said, you know, that's what people do.
Initially, the 2000 series received good reviews, and then the problem started. Hard disk drives started to fail at a rate that was unacceptable. Alan Sugar recalled all the 2000 series and tried to correct the problem by fitting new disk controllers. The actual fault was in a batch of disk drives supplied to Amstrad by Seagate. Despite the fact that everyone said that Amstrad had done the right thing in responding quickly to the problem, the damage was done and the Amstrad name was associated with faulty computers.
Yeah.
After the 2000 series, they produced an increasing number of fairly standard PCs, the 3000, the 4000 and so on. Nothing was ever as successful as a PC 1512, 1640. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he sort of sees that moment
as the end
with the hard drives as the thing that finished Amstrad. They're on the cusp of world domination, basically.
They could have done
because they were making inroads into the PC market. And,
and everything else had fallen away. They could have done. But in the end, that it was always old. That was the 386, and that was the 386 in like the mid 90s, when that was quite a, you know, people would buy 486s. Maybe even the Pentium was out by then. Maybe not.
Well, mid 90s, I think. Well, when I went to university, it was the 486 was definitely being phased out by the Pentium.
Right. Yeah.
You could still buy a 486 and use a 486, but it was sort of like
yeah. But that was the thing. It was old technology. It was reselling old technology. So as soon as people think it's old and it's not going to work, kind of like it's second hand, you wouldn't buy one, would you?
No.
You know.
No.
They did have. I mean, they had some interesting ideas. There was a PC, a really really low spec PC, sold in the early 90s. It didn't even look like a PC. It looked like an old computer, like a Commodore Amiga or something, but it was black. And that, I mean, on paper, really good idea. It was like 400 quid for a PC. When the market was growing, PC gaming, you know, the truth was that PCs weren't that good. And a really low spec PC wasn't going to play those games anyway. And for the same price, you could buy a Commodore or an Atari or whatever, and it was much better. Sadly.
Sad but true.
That's a typical thing. This is the Sinclair PC200, that's what it's called. It's one of those things where at the time it just looks so rubbish. Why would you have that? You had to cut open the case to expand it so that the card was together. And now it looks so cool. I'd really like one of those. It looks awesome.
It looks a bit like an Archimedes or a...
Yeah, or Amiga or yeah. But it's black. Don't those cases look cool in black?
Pretty cool, man.
It seemed just shit at the time. It just seemed like, what the fuck are they doing? So yeah, we did make a point there about consumers making decisions.
Just about.
In there somewhere.
Managed to crowbar that in.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really interested in how you do it, though. I was sort of... Our relationship with the products we buy, I think, is quite unhealthy.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, the desire to have one of these.
It's getting all the stuff. It is, you know, we're just as bad as people who want to buy handbags or whatever, aren't we? It's just the same.
Yeah. You
know, if you want a £1,100 phone, or whatever, you know, it's nonsense, isn't it? It's not worth £1,100, and there will be people who would argue that and say, well, but it has blah blah something. It does this. So what? In fact, this thing here, right? My notes are on this. It's a Surface, Microsoft Surface. That's an i5, which is and that is actually, or was, a fantastic bit of technology. It is a tablet. It's that wide, and it's a full size. If you bought a new mediocre PC, it would be the same as that. So you are paying for it in a tiny little tablet space. So that, you know, but it's still just that. You know, it's just a PC, isn't it? So it's £1,000.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, but it is useful to have completely compatible with everything, and it's a tablet. It is useful. I've got to be honest, but
tablets are on the way out. I tried to find a decent tablet for £100, £100 to £200, and they don't do them anymore.
Really?
Android tablet, yeah.
Oh my God.
They seem to be. I mean, you can.
Because phones have just got so big.
I think so. I think it's the phones. It's just sort of.
That's really strange.
Yeah.
So what do people? I thought people didn't buy laptops anymore, or well, they certainly don't buy PCs, desktop PCs anymore, because they buy tablets instead. Perhaps they don't. Perhaps they've realised they're the same as their phone, and the phone costs more, so it must be better.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.